This is an excerpt from Startling Incidents and Experiences in the Christian Life by Enoch E. Byrum. Praying for Rain. A woman in eastern Indiana, who was very worldly during her early life, through illness and reverses of various kinds, turned to the Lord for help, and in after years became a very devout Christian. Although she continued to have severe trials, she learned to take everything to the Lord in prayer. Even the more minute things, such as most people neglect to mention while in prayer, she would talk to the Lord about as one would to his best friend. In her humble manner, she would make known her needs and wishes with praise and thanksgiving, and her simple faith was honored from day to day by the manifestation of the power of God in answer to her petitions. The granting of one petition would encourage her to more boldly present her needs at the throne of grace. The enemy often sought to defeat her or to bring discouragements when the answer was delayed. Sometimes she was not able to understand the reason for the delay, but she learned to trust it all to him to whom she had been made known the desire of her heart. Though she made no display of her faith, and though her prayers were very simple, nevertheless God heard and answered her humble petitions, insomuch that for many miles from her country home she was known as one for whom the Lord heard and answered prayer. So definite were her answers when praying for those who were sick, that she received many calls to visit the sick at their homes and offer prayer in their behalf. It was my privilege once to visit the home of this woman during the time that a severe drought was destroying the crops throughout this section of the country. While riding along on the train, we saw fields of withered crops, for but little rain had fallen for many weeks, and the heat was intense. But when we came within a few miles of her home, we noticed a marked change in the atmosphere. There were signs of recent rains, and in the vicinity of their home, we were amazed at the freshness of the air, the tall green grass, and the prolific cornfields. When mention was made concerning the drought only a few miles distant, she told us that they had been having plenty of rain during the summer. When we need rain, she said, I pray for it, and the Lord always sends it. In times past, when I would pray for rain, I always believed it would come, but often there would be only a sprinkle or a very light shower. This was difficult for me to understand, as the Lord has promised to supply all our needs, and the Word of God says, What things soever ye desire when ye pray, believe that ye receive them, and ye shall have them. Sometimes I desired rain, and we needed it, but the supply would not be enough to meet the demand, and I thought it was because it was not the will of God to send it just at that time. But there was the promise to supply the need, and to grant the desire of the one who would pray and believe. Then there was the example of Elijah, who prayed for rain at a time when it was needed, and he continued praying until he felt assurance that the Lord heard and granted his petition, and not merely a few drops fell upon the parched ground, but that very day the rain fell in copious showers. In consideration of these promises and evidences of answered prayer, this woman took courage and made her petitions with boldness. I concluded, she said, that when I prayed for rain and only a very light shower came, it was the enemy trying to defeat me in my efforts. And thereafter, at such times, I always rebuked the enemy and prayed earnestly, and the rain would come in abundance. So definite and frequent were the answers to her prayers that some of the neighbors said to her, The rain sometimes falls only on your own farm. During our visit at her home, the crops began to show signs of the need of rain. In the morning of the day we were to leave, she and her daughter went into a room to pray for rain. In the afternoon, the clouds began to gather, and their increased darkening aspect indicated an approaching storm, which was likely to hinder our driving to town to take the evening train. When her attention was called to it, she said they had asked the Lord to send rain, but to prevent its coming until after we were gone. Her prayer was answered. As our train left the station, the dark lowering clouds were still hanging above the western horizon, ready to bring the refreshing shower in accordance with the petition offered and the promises of the Word.